Ryan Carter woke up before the alarm, his heart already racing with anticipation. Today was the day that could change everything. For 3 long years, he had juggled multiple part-time jobs, construction shifts, repairing appliances, and late-night deliveries, just to keep the lights on and food on the table for his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. But today, he had a chance to turn it all around. The engineering firm he had dreamed of working for had finally called him for an interview. He had spent nights practicing answers, ironing his only good shirt, and rehearsing how to sound confident, even though deep down, he felt terrified. As the sun rose over the small, run-down apartment, Ryan stood in the kitchen, pouring cereal into a chipped bowl while Lily sat at the table in her faded princess pajamas. Her hair was messy, and her big brown eyes sparkled with the same hope he felt but couldn't admit. "Daddy, are you gonna get the big job today?" she asked between spoonfuls. He smiled, adjusting his tie in the reflection of the microwave door. "I'm sure gonna try, kiddo. If I do, maybe we can get that puppy you keep talking about." Lily gasped dramatically, her hands flying to her cheeks. "A real one? Not the stuffed one?" Ryan laughed, the sound easing some of his tension. "A real one. But only if I nail that interview." By 8 a.m., he had dropped Lily off with Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly neighbor who watched her when he worked. He double-checked his resume in his briefcase, his stomach fluttering with nerves. The sky was clear, the streets buzzing with commuters, and for once, he felt like maybe, just maybe, his luck was turning around. But fate had other plans. As he walked through the downtown plaza toward the bus stop, a low rumble began under his feet. It was subtle at first, like a heavy truck passing by. Then, in a matter of seconds, the ground split open. The pavement heaved, buildings groaned, and people screamed. The noise was deafening, glass shattered, alarms blared, and the earth itself seemed to roar. Ryan dropped his briefcase, stumbling as a lamppost crashed nearby. Panic surged through him as he ducked behind a concrete bench, covering his head. The shaking lasted barely a minute, but it felt like forever. When it stopped, the city was unrecognizable, dust filled the air, cars were overturned, and cries for help echoed from every direction. Ryan's first instinct was to call Mrs. Jenkins and check on Lily, but his phone had no signal. He looked around, trying to find a way out, when he heard it, a faint, desperate voice amid the chaos. "Help! Please, someone help me!" It came from across the plaza. Ryan hesitated. He could leave, get to safety, maybe still make it to the interview if he hurried. But that voice, soft, frightened, and fading, cut through his hesitation. He ran toward it, leaping over debris and broken glass until he found her. A young woman lay trapped beneath a fallen streetlight, her arm pinned and her face pale with pain. "Please," she whispered, tears streaking through the dust on her cheeks. Without thinking, Ryan dropped to his knees and tried to lift the metal pole. It was too heavy, but he refused to stop. "Don't move," he said through gritted teeth. "I'll get you out." He used a broken plank as leverage, straining until his muscles burned. Slowly, painfully, the pole shifted enough for him to pull her free. The woman gasped, clutching her injured arm, tears spilling down her face. You saved me." As paramedics arrived minutes later, Ryan stepped back, breathing hard, sweat and dust covering him from head to toe. The woman was safe, but his phone buzzed with a notification, an automatic reminder for his interview. It was too late. The bus had stopped running, the office building was likely closed, and he stood in the ruins of what had been his big day. Still, as he watched the woman being carried to safety, something inside him settled. He might have lost his chance at the job, but he had saved a life. And deep down, Ryan Carter knew, this day, though not the one he planned, was meant for something far greater than any interview. The next morning, Ryan woke to the sound of sirens wailing in the distance and the faint hum of helicopters circling the city. The air still smelled of dust and broken concrete, a reminder that the earthquake had left scars far deeper than the eye could see. Sitting on the edge of his bed, Ryan rubbed his aching shoulders, his mind clouded with exhaustion and worry. He had barely slept, haunted by images of the woman he had rescued, her pale face, her trembling voice, the way she had looked at him with disbelief and gratitude. But now, as the morning light streamed through the cracked blinds, reality hit hard. He had missed the interview. The one chance he had to finally give Lily the life she deserved was gone. With a heavy sigh, he glanced toward the small cot where his daughter still slept, her arm wrapped tightly around her stuffed bunny. Even in her dreams, she looked peaceful, untouched by the chaos outside. He couldn't let her see how crushed he felt. She was the reason he kept going. By noon, he mustered the courage to call the engineering firm. His hands trembled slightly as he dialed the number. The line rang several times before a receptionist answered in a polite but detached tone. "Good afternoon, this is Madison Engineering, how can I help you?" Ryan cleared his throat. "Hi, this is Ryan Carter. I had an interview scheduled yesterday, but there was an emergency," she interrupted, sounding apologetic but firm. "I'm sorry, sir. The position has already been filled." Her words hit like a hammer. "I understand," he managed, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Thank you for your time." When he hung. A week had passed since the earthquake, yet its memory still echoed through Ryan's mind. The city was slowly coming back to life, streets being cleared, lights restored, and people returning to their routines. But inside Ryan, there was still an aftershock of disappointment and uncertainty. He had been searching for new jobs, applying wherever he could, but every email reply was the same: "We appreciate your interest, but the position has been filled." His savings were thinning, and with rent due soon, the pressure felt heavier than ever. Still, he didn't let Lily see the weight he carried. Each morning, he made pancakes shaped like smiley faces, pretending everything was fine. He had grown used to struggle, but the constant thought that he had lost his big opportunity because he chose to help a stranger gnawed at him, even if deep down he knew he would have done the same thing again. One afternoon, as he returned home from helping clear debris in a nearby neighborhood, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. He almost didn't answer, spam calls had become too common, but something made him pick up. "Hello," he said, his voice weary. "Mr. Carter," came a gentle voice on the other end. "This is Emily Reynolds." Ryan froze. It was her, the woman from the earthquake. "Emily," he breathed. "I wasn't sure I'd ever hear from you again. How are you?" "Alive," she said softly, with a small laugh that sounded both grateful and fragile. "Thanks to you. I wanted to see you in person, to thank you properly. Could we meet tomorrow? Maybe at the coffee shop on Main Street?" Ryan hesitated for a second, unsure of what to say. "You really don't have to, please," she interrupted. "You saved my life. The least I can do is buy you a cup of coffee." After a moment, he agreed. "All right. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The next morning, Ryan arrived early. He had borrowed a clean shirt from a neighbor and brushed his hair neatly. When Emily walked in, he almost didn't recognize her. She looked radiant, her arms still in a sling but her posture strong, her eyes full of warmth and grace. She smiled when she saw him, and for a moment, the noise of the cafe faded away. "Ryan," she greeted, her voice soft but steady. "I was hoping you'd come." He smiled modestly. "Of course. I'm just glad you're okay." They sat across from each other, sipping coffee and talking about the quake, about life, about Lily. Emily listened with genuine interest, her expression growing more emotional as he spoke of the struggles of single fatherhood. "You gave up your interview to save me," she said finally, her eyes misty. "And because of that, you lost your job opportunity?" Ryan shrugged. "I guess so. But you were trapped. I couldn't just walk away." Emily's gaze lingered on him, a mix of admiration and something deeper. "You're remarkable, Ryan. Most people wouldn't have done what you did." He chuckled quietly. If that makes me remarkable, then the world needs more ordinary people. Emily smiled faintly and reached for her bag. There's something I need to show you, she said, pulling out a folder. She handed it to him. Confused, Ryan opened it, and froze. Inside were documents stamped with the logo of Reynolds Engineering Group, one of the city's largest firms. I don't understand, he said, looking up at her. Emily's smile widened. I'm the CEO of that company. I read your resume, you were heading to the wrong interview that morning. The one you missed wasn't your destiny, Ryan. This one is. He blinked, stunned into silence. Emily continued, we're launching a project to design earthquake-resistant housing across the state. I want you to lead it. Full-time position, full benefits. Ryan's throat tightened, emotions surging all at once. Emily. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she replied softly. Because people like you deserve a chance to rebuild, not just buildings, but lives. Tears blurred Ryan's vision as he reached across the table to shake her hand. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. Months passed, and the city slowly healed from the scars the earthquake had left behind. For Ryan, life had shifted in a way he never expected. Every morning, he woke up not to dread, but to purpose. He was now the project lead at Reynolds Engineering Group, working under Emily's guidance on a large-scale initiative to build earthquake-resistant homes for displaced families. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had once been just another man struggling to keep a roof over his daughter's head, and now he was designing roofs that could save hundreds of lives. Each blueprint he drew carried a piece of his story, a reminder of how fragile yet powerful human choices could be. His co-workers respected him, admiring not just his skill but his quiet humility. He never bragged about the fact that he had saved their CEO's life, nor that she was the one who had given him his second chance. For Ryan, gratitude was enough. Lily had blossomed too. The shy little girl who once watched him leave for long shifts now greeted him after work with drawings of houses and bridges, proudly saying, I made this for your company, Daddy. Emily often visited their small but cozy apartment, bringing books, art supplies, and sometimes homemade cookies. Over time, she and Lily formed an unspoken bond, one that warmed Ryan's heart more than he could ever admit. They had dinners together, shared laughter, and sometimes spent evenings watching the city lights from the office balcony. What had begun as gratitude slowly turned into friendship, and from friendship, something gentler, deeper, and unspoken began to bloom between them. One evening, after a long day at the construction site, Ryan and Emily stood together on the balcony of the firm's new headquarters. The city stretched before them, buildings reborn, lights flickering like stars, a quiet hum of life that spoke of resilience. The wind was soft, carrying with it the faint scent of rain. Hard to believe, Emily said, her gaze distant yet calm, that just months ago this city was in ruins. Ryan nodded, resting his arms on the railing. Sometimes, he said thoughtfully, things have to break before they can be built stronger. Emily turned to him, her expression gentle. You've built more than just homes, Ryan. You've built hope. Her words lingered in the air, and when their eyes met, there was an understanding between them, one that didn't need words. Ryan looked down, smiling quietly. If someone had told me that missing an interview would lead me here, I would have laughed in their face. Emily laughed softly, her voice warm. Destiny has its own plans. You just happened to listen when it called. They stood there in silence for a moment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. It was in that quiet that Ryan realized something. Sometimes the moments that break you are the very ones that rebuild your life. Just then, the office door burst open, and Lily ran out, her laughter echoing across the balcony. In her arms was a small brown puppy, its tail wagging wildly. Daddy, look! Miss Emily said I could keep him, she cried joyfully. Ryan raised an eyebrow at Emily, half surprised, half amused. Emily grinned, her eyes twinkling. "A promise is a promise, isn't it?" she said. Ryan laughed, shaking his head. "You're going to spoil her." "She deserves it," Emily replied softly. "So do you." As the sun dipped below the skyline, Ryan wrapped an arm around Lily, who was now giggling as the puppy licked her cheek. Emily stood beside them, her hand brushing lightly against his. In that moment, Ryan realized he wasn't just a single dad fighting to survive anymore, he was a man who had been given a second chance at life, love, and purpose. The earthquake had taken many things from the world, but it had also given him something unexpected, a family built not by blood, but by courage, kindness, and fate. As the city lights flickered to life, Ryan smiled, whispering, "Maybe sometimes the world has to shake to set things right." And for the first time in years, he truly believed it.